because I was the first one in my family to do law enforcement. So I have a pretty big family on both sides. My mom and dad have lots of brothers and sisters, lots of uncles and aunties, and all the cousins did other stuff. And I think if I had gone in the same pathways as them, then it would be like too easy to just compare.
Brothers and sisters! Brothers and sisters! I don't know what this world is coming to!
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Black and Blue Podcast. I appreciate everybody for joining me here today. I got an officer out here from Bellevue, Washington. He is a 15-year veteran of that police department out there in Bellevue, Washington. Everybody help me please welcome in my guest today, Craig Hanaumi. What's going on, brother?
Good morning, Dale. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. So what's happening out there in Bellevue, Washington? What's the weather like out there today?
Low 40s and overcast. So
just another day in Washington, right?
Just another day in Washington. Right.
Yeah, I mean, you got us beat. Actually, I think it's look on my temperature and watch it. It's 37 degrees out here where I'm at.
Wow.
In Cali. So
we had a warmer one of the two. So
yeah, I know. What happened with that? Yeah, so I don't know if you heard of Big Bear. I'm close to Big Bear, where the snow is and all that. So that's why it's a little colder over here. But I'm at the bottom. No snow down here. So
right.
All right. So I mentioned you are a 15-year veteran at the Bellevue Police Department. What do you do over there now?
Right now, I am one of our department's community station officers. We have storefronts in our city with 2 different malls, and I work out of one of them. I'm actually temporarily assigned back to patrol until we reopen stuff. So I still get to do a little bit of the stuff that I would be doing at the community station, but currently I'm connected to our patrol division.
Okay, and that's because of COVID and
I think in about April, our substations are staffed by mostly retirees. So due to the pandemic, they told them it'd be safer to just stay at home. Yeah. And when we still utilize them to write reports and things like that, but when they're not there, since they weren't there, and just for staffing, all the station officers and school officers were put back into patrol, and hopefully we get to go back soon. But in the meantime, we still get to do a little bit of the stuff that I'll be doing in my original position. So
all right,
it's been as good as I can and ask for, I guess, considering the circumstance.
You guys getting the vaccine up there?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Are you getting it?
I got it. I got my second shot a couple of days ago. And my arm was a little sore.
Yeah. How'd you do? That's it?
I was a little bit tired, but I don't know. First, probably against my better judgment, I did a super hard workout right after I got the shot. So that probably wasn't the smartest idea.
Maybe not.
All right. I'm all right.
Okay. Yeah, because I heard I already got my first shot. I get my second one next week, and I heard the second one is worse than the first one. The first one, my arm was felt like I got a Clayton Kershaw fastball on my arm, or so,
Yeah, it was sore, and I also heard that, but so far so good for me.
But you did good. All right, man. We'll pray for you. Hopefully that's all it is, and then all of us get this vaccine so that we can move on and get back to normal. I miss restaurants and movies and concerts, and I miss all that. So hopefully we can get back to that, some semblance of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And then it was a crazy summer all over the U.S.
You know, we had the protests and with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all that type of stuff. Did you guys get hit with any protests up there?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You did?
Western Washington had a lot. We did mutual aid for a few agencies as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm thankful that our community in our city is supportive of us. And so I appreciate that.
Yeah. For those of us that don't know, where is Bellevue in relation to, say, Seattle, where everybody knows?
It's about 10 miles east. So very close.
Oh, so you're
right
in
on
so you're
just
right
east of
there.
Lisbon. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Did you guys have to help them out, or were they good? I saw all the videos and looked like they didn't do much. They just let things happen over there, from what I saw. So it was pretty crazy.
Because I don't work for SPD, but we send mutual aid to their precinct, and same thing in reverse. I think a lot of the departments in the Western Washington area have a agreement to do mutual aid and assist when there's any kind of activity, not just protests, but anything for critical incidents or other calls. So I think it seems like it's a good relationship between the agencies in the region.
Yeah, that's good. So are you originally from Washington, or where are you from originally?
No, I'm from Aiea, Hawaii, on Oahu, and I've been up here about 15 years.
About 15 years. What brought you to the mainland?
So I was a Honolulu police officer back home, and I was working for HPD for 3 years. And like a lot of people who live in the islands, it's really expensive. My ex at the time wanted to relocate to the mainland, and those two things combined, and I had no other reference for our job besides what I was doing with HPD. So I don't know. I initially didn't want to leave, but it worked out pretty good. Cost of living prices people out a lot, not just in our job, but in pretty much every job. And it's not cheap. It's not easy to live in the state. The cost of living is really, really high, and the pay is less too. So it's caused a lot of people to leave. People go away from home for school and work, but it's not exclusive to law enforcement for sure. Pretty much every job has the same dilemma. Because it's hard. It's hard to live. It's nice to vacation, but it's hard to make a living.
Yeah. I've never been to Hawaii. I want to get out there. We got some friends whose daughter goes to one of the universities out there, so maybe we can get out there and visit her. But I've been meaning to get out there. So yeah. And then why'd you pick Washington and Bellevue in particular?
West Coast. I lucked out getting into my department. I moved up sight unseen, and I just started applying to different places. And Bellevue was one of the first ones to give me a job offer, and I was really lucky. I mean, there was a lot of places I applied to, and I think this department was the best fit for me. So I really lucked out to get picked up by them, and it's worked out. It's worked out well.
Right. Were there different departments in different states that you applied to too, or
no?
Just Washington.
I think back then it was really interesting because now I'm kind of looped into our recruiting, and the hiring process for laterals has changed quite a bit since I lateraled to here. It used to be identical for entry level and Washington entry level and lateral applicants, but the process for hiring is very different now for those two categories. And like we had to do a PT test, and I think the steps back when I lateraled here were identical to entry level. Like every step was the same, which was I did it, but
and then you had to pass the state test for the to become a peace officer there. You had to know the laws and all that type of stuff.
There's an equivalency academy that is completed, and I believe now most of it is online from the CJTC, the Criminal Justice Training Commission down in Burien here, and that has to get completed sometime before I guess the end of the probation period.
Right. All right. Well, cool, man. Glad you found your spot, found your niche over there. What is your background? Are you Hawaiian, Japanese? What is your background?
Fourth generation Japanese American. So
All
my
right.
grandparents on both sides moved to Hawaii. I think in the late 1890s.
Nice, nice. And then do you speak any Japanese or?
No, it's unfortunate because my parents, I think my grandparents were encouraging my parents to not speak because back then the like old-fashioned thinking about you can confuse, the person, and that's unfortunate because we went to Japanese school and stuff like that, but I don't have it enough to converse. And I think the only way is I got to get the immersion. Like I'll go to like Japan or something and just stay there or something. That's on my bucket list. But yeah, I can say enough to say I don't understand.
You can say enough to say you don't understand.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Skoshi means a little bit in Japanese, and that's Skoshi is pretty much the extent of my conversation ability.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully you can get back there and put that on your bucket list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's good stuff. So, out of the things you were talking about earlier that you think you worked out a little bit, you're a big workout fiend, right? You work out all the time. You're in good shape and
try to be. I mean, I was never in high school. I didn't really do that much. I did cross country. That was the one sport that didn't seem like there was cuts in it, so you could just be on the team. And
so you're a runner.
No, I wouldn't say that. I was cross country, but I would definitely not call myself a runner. I ran, but I think running to me would be like a person who's a runner would have to be good at it, and I was okay. I don't have the physical makeup of I don't think what a runner should be like. I have short legs and kind of stocky, so not really a prototype build for running, but that's what I did in high school for the most part. But after high school, I just kept getting into exercise. I worked as a personal trainer for a little bit, so I got exposed to different modalities of exercise, like Olympic weightlifting and the standard, I guess, bodybuilding kind of exercises, and that always interested me. So it was more like after college, beginning of college, and then continued after college, and just kept going till now. So
yeah.
It's a work applicable, I guess, attribute, right, for us. So
right, yeah,
why not?
You gotta stay on top of your fitness and your health so that you can, for one, do our job, because it's the unexpectability of our job. You can go from 0 to 100, like that. So you got to stay on top of your fitness, and then the stress involved with our job, and yeah.
Oh yeah, from a wellness standpoint, yeah, exercise is great. I mean, it's therapeutic, right? Good for you. Multiple wins, right? When you have fitness in your lifestyle for any job.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another thing that you're into is jiu-jitsu and defensive tactics, right?
Yeah, same thing. They kind of bleed over into each other, right? They overlap because of the fitness parallel, and same thing, work applicable. Fascinating hobby to really, for analytical people, I think they would really enjoy jiu-jitsu just because of how much the unlimited positions and moves and counter moves, like that, it never ends. So I think it's really, for a person who gets bored with a routine that is the same thing, I think jiu-jitsu would be great for that, because you literally can train, every day for whatever, 20 years. This is my 12th year right now, and still learn something new every time.
Yeah. Now, are there levels, in jiu-jitsu mastery?
Yeah, most places have belt ranks. Not the traditional uniform, the gi or the kimono. People who wear that connect to belt ranks, and there's only 5 belts in adult jiu-jitsu: white, blue, purple, brown, and black. And then within each belt, there are 4 designated stripes that are put on the belt. So to replace multiple colors, right? Like some arts have like 12, 13 belts. There's only 5. And within each belt rank, there's 4 stripes per belt that a person can earn. Or I guess some people call it a degree, first, second, third, fourth, and then you get progressed to the next one. Subjective, like every school, every instructor has a criteria in their own mind. And I guess that can kind of be confusing for some people, because one person's idea of what the rank is might be different from somebody else's, and there's no one unifying organized body that would say. I think unlike judo, which has, I guess, curriculum and things like that, jiu-jitsu, the grappling art as we know it kind of currently, doesn't really have that. So and some people don't use the uniform like that at all. They just wear compression shirts, or rash guards we'll call it, and shorts or spats, and they grapple with that, and they call that's the nogi people, which is more comparable to what looks like wrestling and a little bit, as far as what you would wear, because you want to wear like a long sleeve shirt in a wrestling match. But it's all good. I mean, there's lots of, like I said, there's lots of parallels and connections to our work because of the aspect of having to close quarter engage with another human being, who is trying to not cooperate. And I mean, just from that aspect alone, it's definitely very, very helpful to have familiarity in that fighting range.
Now, do you use that experience as a collateral duty or anything in your department?
Well, I'm one of our defensive tactics field instructors, and might as well be. Like, I think if anybody who has an interest in this that does law enforcement in jiu-jitsu anyway should. I feel like it's kind of selfish if you don't put yourself in positions to reteach or help other officers. So I get to do that, and we get to sometimes use that interest to attend training. Yeah. Which, I mean, to be honest, like we would do for free anyways.
For sure.
Or even pay for ourselves, because it's just, if you enjoy the thing that you're doing, then it doesn't feel like work. And the trainings that we get to go to once in a while, which are some of them is in California, that's Southern California, Torrance areas, with jiu-jitsu connected to law enforcement, it's just unbelievable. Super fun. And it's almost, I think when we tell our friends and other people who train jiu-jitsu that are not in law enforcement that we're going to Torrance to train at like Gracie University for a week, and that's work for us, people get jealous. I would too.
That's the holy grail, huh?
Not right. But that's I think, like I said, for a person who has that interest, that's a obvious, I think, direction that you would go to, because you get to do something you enjoy and call it work. And so it's hard to beat that.
Yeah. So I got turned on to you on Instagram. You do a lot of good trainings on defensive tactics and jiu-jitsu. And here's one here for everybody to take a look at. And maybe you can walk us through what's going on here. Check this out.
Yeah, that's just me and my coworker Jordan with a SIRT pistol. SIRT training pistol, shoots out a laser. It's a P320, big P320 model. And we're just grappling with a gun, and we don't really have a role of like officer, arrestee, or anything like that. I mean, just to experience what that feels like for a couple rounds, and it's good. I think it's
eye-opening for sure.
You get to visually see. I think I started sharing stuff just because I think not everybody has time or ability to get another person like that, or even a place to train like that. Because you can still learn from watching stuff. It's not the same, of course. It's not replacing being able to kinesthetically feel something, but there's value in watching and be like, oh, okay, very interesting. And I try to point out some takeaways. So, because I definitely learn when that happens, because I don't get to do it as often as I would want. But the times that we've been doing training like that, it's really interesting. There's another one actually that was more recently posted where it's just from close quarter. One of the takeaways to me that I didn't put on the initial post was that in close quarters with a pistol, you're probably safer completely engaged. Like if you're that close to touch the person, disengaging, it actually helps the person with the pistol to shoot you. Yeah. So if you're that close already and there's no cover around, you might as well just stay in there and go all in, because disengaging where you're gonna, first of all, it's not far away enough. It's not close enough to get to cover from grapple range. By the time you take one step away, that's all you need, right, for a pistol. Yeah.
I think you are referring to this video here. Let's see another video I got from you.
Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Oh no, that's a totally different one.
Okay.
That's we did with edge weapons, but yeah, that's another interesting one. Hallway, like confined space. Right there, yeah, we try to do standing up reaction, and then we did this backfall to using the feet as well. And like
Yeah,
I always
like that tactic right there.
nothing works all the time.
Yeah.
There's a really good former coworker of mine. His name is Paul Dudley. He was with our department for a long time before he left. But yeah, it's not really coined from him necessarily, but he always used to say everything works, everything fails, and that's true.
Yeah.
It's 100% true. The wedges on the hips didn't always work. I got cut sometimes, but my point for making that was in a confined space, because people was like, "Oh, that's ridiculous! Like you fall into your back." So stay on your feet, and that's why I did all the possibilities. Like I moved to my left, moved to my right, I ran away, just to illustrate, like, well, staying on your feet in confined space. The only one that I didn't get cut 100% at the time was when I ran away. Like that was it. Like every other scenario when I was standing up, especially when we were in the hallway, because the hallway is only like what 8-10 feet wide.
Right.
You can't get off the line enough to not get cut.
Yeah.
Like, it's just my legs are too short to do what do you call that? Teeps, Muay Thai teeps, or some people call it a push kick. You know, it's not like what you call it, the dude in 300, right? You do. My leg is like I try to extend my leg to do a push kick, and my friend Kai, who's the other person in that video, he still can just reach out his arm and cut me with the knife with my foot.
Right.
So it didn't really. And
his arms are longer. His arms are longer than your legs.
Yeah, he's taller than me, and yeah, and if it was an even taller person, it would be the same. So for me, I mean that could work too. Like I said, everything works, everything fails. I just wanted to see what what was possible, and that's what you do that's what training is for, right? Like that's the lab. Right. That's what I think that's a jiu-jitsu analogy that is used all the time. The mat is the laboratory, and you say like, what happened if I did this? And it's like, well, let's find out, and I think that's the best way to. I mean, you obviously can't use real blades and real pistols, but the next best thing is training tools and a person or people who are willing to get after it, and then you get to see, like at least, like people say, well, that wouldn't work in real life. Like, well, what else is what are the other alternatives? And
how else can you train?
And I always ask people like, well, what would you do in that confined space? And it's interesting to hear the responses because usually there isn't any. And like I said, some people have other responses I never thought of. I was like, I should try that. And I think that's the, kind of like that scientist mindset to always pressure test stuff. I think that's the best way. That's as good as you can do, and that's all you can do after that. So
no doubt.
I think capturing a video image wise and sharing it, I think it's helpful for other people to see, and because we don't, like I said, I have the luxury sometimes of a little bit extra time, so I can do those, and I have some really good friends to be willing to help me see, right after this, I can go down to the training room, and my friend Kai, who's in that video, he's like a high school senior. He's probably gonna fight MMA when he's an adult. He's just unbelievable athlete and a super humble guy, and we're gonna mess around with the shock knife, the knife that has the electric 75,000.
That's all you, brother. That's all you.
I can take one for the team. See, that's why I said like not everybody.
Yeah, you do that, and then I'll watch the video and I'll do some takeaways.
Right, man. That's what somebody got to do one, and the other people can do the other. And like I said, hopefully, so far, like we don't have any injuries or anything, which is that's always a concern, right? People don't want to get hurt, which getting hurt in training to me almost negates the value of the training, depending on what the injury was from. If it's from lack of conditioning, that's a different situation. But freak injuries, freak accidents can happen for sure. I think the alternative, like I said, if somebody's presuming they're reasonably fit already and working out and all those things, if somebody doesn't want to train because of fear of injury, like I would only counter that one with, well, then you're just going to experience it for real. Then is that the only time? I personally don't like that. Like that scares me. To be like, well, I guess I hope that somehow my body is going to figure it out. And, that's why I do all the stuff. Like, I want to know. Like, I want to know how it feels to grapple in my uniform.
Yeah.
I want to know how it feels to run, even to do treadmill, some silly stuff. Probably my back going hate me for doing it later on and when I'm older. But I mean, like, I don't want to have a surprise. Like, I don't want something to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was happening when I actually need to have a real in a real incident. So I try to.
Well, that's what practice is. That's what practice is in athletics. You practice so that when it's game time, you know what to do, and you've been there before, really.
Yeah,
act like you've been there
no
before.
sport. there's no successful team in any sport that can be like, we'll just figure it out when we start playing. That doesn't make sense.
No,
right?
That makes sense. Yeah. But some of the takeaways I took from some of those videos, you wouldn't think, like going to your back, that's kind of counterproductive or counterintuitive to what you would think you would do. In running too, especially in our profession, with the machismo that a lot of us have in our profession, turning and running, we wouldn't call it turn and run. We call it disengaging, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, I only did that one because I wanted, like, that was another thing standing up. That was the only thing left to actually, what I didn't do is I didn't run at Kai, which I don't know if anybody would charge the person with a knife. That would be another possibility. I would assume that would get me cut too. And, I think sometimes we don't have the option, right, to run away. So we have to stand our ground. And going to the ground in those particular, because I say if I had enough space, I think that's the one thing people can't, I guess, understand is I'm not saying that that's the answer for every situation, because if it was an open space, yes, I would stay on my feet and get off the line and stay standing. Of course, like, nobody immobilizes themselves on purpose, or I don't think they would anyways. But in a confined space, I don't know. There's just very limited options, and interestingly, doing that, besides the fact that it makes my limbs, my legs, which are the longest limb in my body, to be utilized better than if I was standing, than my arms. But my arm's not going to stop nobody. If I stick my arm out, I'm still getting cut for sure. But it changes the OODA loop of the other person, because the last thing the person with the knife is expecting, presuming they didn't see they're not gaming it, and this is the fifth try or the fifth attempt, or if it's the first time, that's not a expected behavior, right? Most people, I think, would either freeze or run away, maybe. But doing that backfall is it throws people. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, I almost slowed down. Like, wait, what's going on here? And actually, the slowing down is actually a benefit to the other person, right? To the person who's doing the backfall, because the distance being closed it takes longer. And I know a lot of times we'll have to almost tell the person who's with the knife roll to keep coming forward. I'm going to backfall, but just keep coming forward. Because if we don't say that, then when you do the backfall in the shooting position on your back, supine, a lot of times the person with the knife stops. Like, they stop and they're like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to get around the legs or cut the foot or whatever. And obviously, in real time, in real situation, you could use the opportunity to shoot, right? If you're able to do so. So anyway.
And it's all training, man.
It's all training,
and we all benefit from it. And then you're talking about in more open spaces when you need to move left, move right, get offline. Again, got another video. So why don't you walk us through this one here?
That's another high school kid in our community named Dylan. Super nice guy. The point of this one, I think people got it. I didn't have to write it, but from the draw, right, reacting to the action of the other person, you are super, super behind. There's just, you cannot, if I don't game it, right, like, knowing he has a pistol in his waistband, he's going to draw it. Even that, that's not really realistic anyways, right? Because I already know in advance he's going to present it. But waiting for his action and then reacting to it, you can see from the first, it's like really behind. And I think the problem, like, for that is, right, even if your draw is, I don't know what the fastest would be, but with our retention, the hoses that we have that have the retention is it's not, takes longer too to release them. But we wouldn't be able to get the presentation before you got hit, standing still.
Exactly.
Presuming they're not moving, sideways or anything like that. And from that distance, which is about,
or shooting like this,
well, even like,
break yourself, break yourself, fool. Yeah.
we were about 10, 15 feet away from each other. So it was not, you didn't even have to use the sights. I mean, it's just the person's silhouette is right there. You put the presentation to the person and you're probably going to hit them. From that distance, 100% of the time when I didn't move, I'll get hit first. Like there was just, I mean, that was, like if I say everything works, everything fails. If standing still is the only recourse, you're probably going to get hit. And that doesn't mean moving, you will not get hit either. And that was the hard part I had to accept too. It's like, even when I was moving, I got hit sometimes, but at least it wasn't every time. And I think that was the main takeaway for me in that scenario. Whatever the direction was, whether it was angled off to the left or angled to the right, I got hit less than standing still. So.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. I'll continue to watch that and get some tips, and you can take the shock knives all day long for me. And then
so that, I mean, the whole point is like people have these ideas about like, oh, this would work, that would work, right? And they're presented in especially online, right, in comment threads or sections, and like I appreciate those ideas. It just like I want to see it, and even better, right? I want to experience it. And I was just thinking about this recently with that post or that video when I moved off the line to the right or left, because the person obviously knows you're moving after you initially move, and they can track you, right? And I was like, what if like, so the takeaway was, right, move and draw, not just one or the other, right? Because that's too long. Staying still is probably, like I said, that's really hard to not get hit in. And then I was like, wow, what if you like move and draw, but pump fake one way, like, so you get off the line moving, and then, because the person who's tracking you, right, because if you're going left, then they can catch up. And hopefully by that time you put rounds on them. But that's another video maybe later. But that's the whole point, right? Training is the lab, you're the scientist, and you're trying to conduct experiments and see with some real data that not just made up, from somebody's theory, something actually works.
All right. Yeah. Good stuff. So you've been up in Bellevue for 15 years now, and you're really entrenched in that community. What's the demographics of Bellevue?
It's super diverse. I like it. It reminds me of Hawaii. I don't know at what point it became that, but at some point between when I started working here and now, basically the minorities became the majority. I don't know what the current percentage is, but I forget. I think maybe 2015, 16, which was probably the last time they did a census of the kids in the school district. It was some number that shocked me about languages spoken in the homes of students in the district. It was like over 80 languages spoken in the homes of kids in our school district. And that, I mean, that shocked me because as a, I went to college, graduated with my BA in psych, but I'd still consider myself fairly uneducated. Like I couldn't even think of that many languages. I'm assuming they're counting the dialects of a lot of different countries too. But yeah, and then that's like I go into the elementary school, one of our elementary schools, Stevenson Elementary, and you go into the cafeteria during lunchtime. Back when we had lunch and school, it was look like the United Nations in there. I mean, there were people from everywhere, which is beautiful. And same thing. We'll walk around the parks, Crossroads Park, where I work. I remember one time we have a world-class skateboard bowl in the park there, and it draws a lot of people, right? Like it's like a magnet, especially when they see an officer in uniform with a skateboard. They're like, "What's going on over here?" So they walk up, and I start speaking with people and ask, like, "Where are you guys from?" Like a lot of people in Washington, they're not born and raised in Washington, right? Lots of people relocate, just like I'm assuming California too. But they'll say like France, China, Africa, Brazil. I mean, like name a country and there's somebody from there living here. I guess.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope.
It's great.
Yeah, I know the Pacific Northwest where you are, and San Francisco, all that's a big mecca for a lot of immigrants to come there, especially from Asian countries and Pacific Islands and all that. So yeah, I can see you get all that up there. I see you get all that.
Great.
Yeah.
That made me a little bit less homesick to see people from so many places. Not as much Pacific Islander, not as much people from like Samoa, Tonga. I think most of those people stay like South Seattle, but there's a few, and every once in a while it's different from California in that there's less people from Hawaii, and California has like so much people from Hawaii that live there, Las Vegas too, but there are still people up here. They have like a Hawaii general store up here set up, and I'm sure all the like UW and the other colleges in this area probably have Hawaii clubs for all the students who come from Hawaii to go to school there, but it's still not as saturated as California. So meeting somebody or coming across someone who is from the islands it's still novel, and it's still super cool to bump into somebody that has a Hawaii connection. And that happens every once in a while too. So I always enjoy when we get to talk about back home to some person up here.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And what drew you to law enforcement when you were back home?
I wish I had a cool story about that. My both parents, my mom taught public school for almost 40 years. My dad worked in the Department of Labor, and super hardworking, both of them. And my cousins, even a lot of my uncles and aunties on both sides, super educated. So I had a high standard to live up to academically on all sides. That got continued by my cousins, similar age cousins who all graduated. And so I initially was almost by their influence to be doing something, pushed into a direction of like some kind of thing like that. But I just didn't want to, I didn't want to teach because my mom taught, because I could see how much work she did in the lesson plans and the non-paid prep that she had to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, that's crazy. Like, that's just too much work. And my sister, she's 2 years younger than me. She's a pediatrician now. And I forget what year it was, but by the time she was middle school, I kept on thinking that she was going to have like academic difficulty like I did when she progressed through her school, But then when she kept on getting 4.0s, I was like, oh man. Like by eighth grade year of hers, when I was in high school, I was like, she's clearly going to be doing way better than me. And
did you have a little difficulty? Did you have difficulty getting through school, or?
Yeah, I mean, I hung around smart people, so I was super lucky. So by what is it, osmosis, a little bit, right? Did you hang around smart people, you're gonna be smarter.
Yeah.
I guess the opposite will also be true, but I was lucky to have a circle of friends who are very really, really good influence, and that was the difference for me. Like, I probably would have gravitated toward whatever my group of friends was doing. So when I finished college, and that was another thing. Like, I don't think I would have went if it weren't for the circle of friends that also went. So after that, I did, like I said, I was a personal trainer a little while, and then outreach counselor for a little bit. I worked in a group home with kids that had autism, or teens basically on the spectrum, and those are all cool jobs to my parents. And they'd be like, "Oh, good, you're doing well," and they never specifically said it, but in the back of I could always sense that in the back of their minds they were thinking, "That's really good, but when you gonna get a real job?" Like every time, like I say, I'm doing this personal training thing, or I'm doing this working in a group home. You're like, oh, good. And it was hard too, because my sister at that time, she was at medical school at Creighton University in Nebraska, and or she was doing her residency in San Francisco at the Oakland Children's Hospital, and so I had a high standard to live up to in that side. I was like, man, I'm not gonna be able to do that. So I think I fell into this job just because. Partly because I could say, well, they can finally say like it's like a legitimate job for their eyes, I think. And they never said it, but I think I could tell it was like, oh, going into the police academy. They were like, oh, good.
That's good then that they accepted police work, because I know hopefully that's not a stereotype that in a lot of Asian households that even law enforcement's not an honorable career or a career you'd want to steer your kids to. And that could be in a lot of households. I know in a lot of Black households, they don't want their kids in law enforcement for a number of reasons. Number one, moms don't want their kids, want their babies being cops, for safety reasons. But can you speak on that?
Yeah, they never said anything. I mean, I think, like I said, for me, mostly it was just because I had these other tracks or precedents because I was the first one in my family to do law enforcement. So I have a pretty big family on both sides. My mom and dad have lots of brothers and sisters. I have lots of uncles and aunties, and all the cousins did other stuff. And I think if I had gone in the same pathways as them, then it would be like too easy to just compare, you know. And then, like I said, like if I was going to do something like medical school, which I would never be able to do, it'd almost be unfair. I'd feel like it would be an unattainable goal or I guess level of expectation. Because my sister was like really, really academically solid, and a lot of other stuff like music too, same thing. So the other career pathways that my other cousins had, like I just kind of partly I wanted to do something different. And I think my parents, besides the job, the aspect of the job and the potential danger and all of that, I think what my parents, especially my dad, was thinking about was, working for the city, and that's a really solid compensatory package, good, decent retirement, I'd get insurance and all those things. So they were thinking from that aspect. And I think the other jobs that I had, even though I felt like they were all great prep for what I do right now, they didn't have as good as benefits as that. So I think they were kind of more like, okay, so at least now you're gonna have good coverage. So
Well,
I could blaze my own trail too, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have to compare. There's no other relative of mine that'd be like, oh, you could be like this, like, oh, you can be a doctor, or you could be like your sister. It's like, I don't want to be like my sister.
No.
Yeah.
And I think you found the right one for you, because you're doing good stuff up there in the community up there. Pretty eclectic dude, from what I've seen. Another thing here that I got off your IG is that you're pretty entrenched in the community over there. You can walk us through the kind of stuff with the kids. You do a lot of stuff with kids. Were you an SRO at some point, or is that the community officer position you were talking about?
Oh, that's all the station stuff. I work really well with the SROs, or I like to think so. We have a really good school resource officer program,
I think
at least in my eye,
on an
and
individual level, that has to
a lot of the
permeate
kids
society.
who
There's
are
a
we meet.
reason whenever you see a cop
It's the
playing
same
sports
same
with
same
somebody in the
population.
neighborhood, the video goes
So
viral.
I
'Cause
don't know, like all those things: skateboarding, basketball, jiu-jitsu. I mean, that's all my hobbies. I played when I was a kid, or I tried to play when I was a kid, and
You tried to.
it's just. I mean, the weird part is they're all very. People say, "Wow, that's like such different hobbies," and I think nowadays people don't do that anymore. Like people, right? If you play a sport, like you specialize in that sport and you play it year round, it's like, man, that's why people are so good, right? They don't do nothing else. But I think the advantage that I had growing up was I was exposed to a lot of stuff. I got to try a lot of different things. So I'm not super good at any of them, but I'm decent at a lot of them.
Yeah.
And then each of those different, I guess, whatever you want to call it, hobby, sport, or whatever, they have their own different groups that participate in them. And they're not overlapping groups, right? People who play basketball, they don't always skateboard. And people who do jiu-jitsu, they don't always play trombone. But since I think what ended up eventually happening is I'm using my little hobbies or interests in all these different backgrounds as a way to connect. And I think the neat thing about that is they're all different. Exercise. Nobody was injured in this clip right here. I don't know how I would have to explain that one if somebody like got hurt, or I got hurt doing that one. But
if you got hurt, yeah.
If I
Kids will just bounce back, yeah.
Well, yeah, they have the LNI packet question, which is how could this injury have been prevented? And then probably the answer I would have put on that one was like something like stretch more, or more more strength training for the lower body or core, right?
Right. Yeah, I've had to fill out a few of those in my career. I know how that works. Yeah, but what I wanted to get to on that was that you're pretty entrenched. You work with the kids a lot. These videos I see, you work with underprivileged communities. I've seen you give out food and furniture and clothing and all that type of stuff. That's real good stuff, man. How large is that unit that when it's normally working outside of COVID?
Yeah, well, there's no unit. I mean, those outreaches that you mentioned, the furniture donation, the the food service. I mean, what those were or how they became was just the different nonprofits we have in our community, which we have a lot of, like Salvation Army, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA. They're all fantastic. We have good working relationship with them, or at least I feel like we do. So they do they have, obviously they serve populations that we would come in contact with once in a while, and even if we don't, it's just good to know people in our community, right? So we use I saw those opportunities, like we have dinners every weeknight served at the Salvation Army back before the pandemic, and they were already doing it. So I came up to the dinners and I would ask the guys coordinate the meal, like, hey, we should serve once a month or something. And then they was like, sure. So that's how that started. And then the furniture stuff, we have a nonprofit that has a transitional housing down the road from the downtown area, and they bring in people who are coming out of homelessness, either a shelter or living in their car or whatever, and they get placed there. And they don't have no furniture, right? Because you come in from that situation, and where are you gonna put the furniture? You don't have any room for anything except your clothes. So there's a lot of population that I met actually. Just we have shelters in our city too, winter shelters that for families and women and families, and a men's shelter. And one of the family shelters, when I was walking through, one of the families got placed into one of the housings in our same city. And that was that doesn't always happen, right? Because you get placed anywhere in the region. You could get placed, 20 miles from the shelter, and then you go there, right? But the one that we had, the family that I met, they got placed in the shelter, from the shelter to the housing in our city, just 4 miles away. And then, I visited them there. And then, when I went in, I was like, wow, no furniture, which is still better than a shelter. I mean, there's no way any person would choose being in a shelter over an unfurnished apartment, because it's your own place, right? And I was like, man, where are you guys gonna get furniture from? And I said, well, there's a donation thing. There's like a lot of nonprofits, which, like I said, amazing collaborations.
Yeah.
Jubilee Reach is another one that mimics or mirrors what Salvation Army does. But it was an interesting dilemma, which still exists right now, and that is there is no connector. You have the furniture, we donated furniture from great people in our community. It's a lot of times at like a place like Habitat for Humanity, the Jubilee Reach Thrift Store. They're all there, and they're all willing to be provided to the families. The problem is there's no delivery point. Like the people who have the need, they don't have a vehicle that can transport a couch or a bed.
Yeah.
And then the nonprofit who has the furniture at their facility, they don't have a thing to deliver it. So then I was like, why don't we use our property van to take it? Like we use it periodically to transport large property, but nobody was using it otherwise. And I was like, that van could fit a mattress and a couch and a bunch of chairs. And my position, like I said, when I was in patrol on the community station officer position, it's not tied to the radio as much. So I was like, I could drive the van, pick up the furniture from the place or donated from whatever family, and then I could bring it to the families that need it. And that's how that became that. So I think I didn't create nothing. Like I just saw the situations that we have and the different entities that are already in place. And I just connect the dots, so I'm just like the connector. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. My man, that's what's up, man. Right now you are in the box, but what you do is outside the box.
There is no box for what I do. I just figure, hey, this would be a good idea. Yeah, just do it and figure out I can say right now that driving a large van, that's not easy. And I didn't
never driven a U-Haul.
No, bro, that's out of my I have a lot of respect for those guys. That and carrying up furniture up a couple flights of stairs.
Yes. And you were in uniform too, right?
People. In uniform, right? That doesn't help, but
no,
we get it done, And I think the coolest thing out of all of that is the fact that a lot of those families who are placed in those places, I'll say most of them don't have negative experience with us, with law enforcement, but the only time they see us, especially the ones who are in the shelter because of domestic violence, they only see mostly us when there's some kind of crisis, right? And some kind of terrible incident. And then here we are, and then we're gone. And it's like, and then terrible incident happens again. Here we are, and then we're gone again. And it's like in between those, there's nothing else usually, because we're not gonna go when nothing's wrong, right? Typically, and I think that's a neat thing when we can do it. Like we can, this person who has this contact, and especially if it is something connected to something that's not good, like a arrest of a family member or something like that, right? If it's a kid or a young person, it's not unreasonable for the young person to think negative connections of police when the police took their dad or mom, even if they were being unsafe for the family, right? That's the only time you see law enforcement. You'd be like, yeah, I'll make that connection too. So I think the hard part is nowadays, especially for us to provide some other perspective to people, especially the people, like, I don't really care if the general population, what they think, because they can think whatever they want. If they're not living here, it doesn't matter to me. But the people who are in our community, if we can share, like, hey, we can provide this service or this support besides 911, I think it makes a bigger difference, I guess, in the long term. Because then some of those kids, when they grow up, they can be like, well, when did you what is your experience with the police? And like some of them are gonna say, like, well, when they delivered the furniture to us. And it's like, man, that's
see
cool.
that's really cool. That's what community service and community outreach and all that is all about. Trying to instill those different ideals in people, not just kids, but kids are helpful because then when they grow up, they wouldn't have had all those negative experiences with police. So SROs and community outreach and all that, that's where it's at. That's where it's at.
Yeah, it's funny too because some people who are very negative about the view of law enforcement or who believe that sometimes that we shouldn't even exist. Like when we share stuff about the furniture delivery and things like that, I try not to pay attention, but I always kind of peruse like other people's comments, and sometimes it says stuff like what is it? It's not a compliment. It's not a negative thing, but it's like a backhanded compliment. That's good, but somebody else should be doing that, not you guys, and or something like that, right? And like, especially the furniture one that happened fairly recently, and the funny part is there isn't another entity.
Yeah, if not us, then who?
Well, who's going to do it? Yeah, and that's my whole point was there would be no delivery of anything if we didn't facilitate this, and that's kind of like what we do, not as far as specifically furniture, right? But that's what we do. Like our job is, besides the 911 response, is if there's a person who is on the side of the road with like car trouble, we'll help them figure that out. If there's a person who has lost in the city, like we'll give them a ride, or stuck in some place because of the weather, would help them out. I mean, that's what we do. But anyways, I know people
public servants. Yeah. And I know another thing that you do. You grew up in Hawaii. Did you surf in Hawaii or?
No. First of all, not everybody in Hawaii knows how to swim. And luckily, I do. But
luckily, you do.
A very common assumption, right? Like, oh, Hawaii, you have to know how to swim and surf and all that. But I could swim. I was taught how to swim, luckily, at a young age. But surfboards, if you didn't know, they're super expensive. They're not cheap.
Right. Yeah, I know.
It's like several $100s. My parents, they were very supportive of a lot of stuff, but not of buying me a 5 foot something tall surfboard that costed like $400, especially when I wasn't able to access the beach by myself. Like I could catch the bus there, but they wouldn't, I don't think they trusted like a 9-year-old kid, 10-year-old kid to do that. And I didn't really have any other friends who were into surfing either. So I didn't have the group, to go with. So it'd be like, if I wanted to, it'd be me by myself, which my parents were like, no, you're not gonna do that. So skateboarding became my surfing, and it was way easier, for me, because one, I didn't have to, besides the cost being less, and all the friends in my neighborhood being skateboarders too, there was not the you don't have to wait. That's one thing I didn't like about surfing. Like it's like you have to be patient and wait for the wave and take turns and other people, and that's good. That's a very good life lesson. I'm not talking that, but just for me personally, like I wanted to wake up and then put my shoes on and just go. Not have to take an hour to bus to the beach or carry the surfboard, and then once in the ocean, gotta wait for the waves. Like I wanted to just go, and so it worked out. And like I said, that's another thing. Like I don't think I could do my surfing outreach up here in Washington. A little bit too cold right now. And
a little bit, just a little bit.
Not quite the same going in the ocean with a wetsuit. Like something about being able to swim without freezing is comforting, to people. So luckily I chose skateboarding, and it has definitely help me build the bridges.
Because you're still using that today. Let's check it out. Skateboarder out there with kids, huh? That's good stuff. Look at that. He's still pretty good at it, huh?
Yeah.
Some of those stunts, some stacked skateboards and I like that movement. Look like
super fun. That's our skate camp, skate camp, city run skate camp. Every throughout the year, they have about 6 during the summertime. They didn't have any this past summer, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, literally, most of the footage is from my iPhone. You know, I just ride and follow people around, and then we get some shots of us skating too. And I mean, that camp is already set up, so I don't have to. Like I said, that's another thing. I don't have to make anything. I just supplement it.
Yeah.
You know, I just add on to it. And it's the best.
Well,
like some of those...
it helps to be able to know how to skateboard, though, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you can't skate, then sorry, sorry, and you're not going to be able to.
I would be no good there.
Well, it's like one of those things, right? Like any other activity or sport, right? I mean, if you're gonna go to the courts and you're gonna try to play some pickup, and then before you start, you better hang on. What is the rules again of basketball? They're gonna look at you like, okay, get out of here. Just come back later when you by yourself or something, right? And same thing. So I think it's connection and finding things in common with activities are just so much easier to do than sitting in a circle and talking to people. You know, like that's my preference, and I don't really enjoy. I like the activities better because I don't have to say anything. Like you don't have to have a dialogue when you're skateboarding, right? Or any activity like basketball.
Well, it's organic. It's organic if you do. I mean, it's 100%. Just out there having fun. It's out there having fun.
That's the best way, right? And so I don't know. I feel like if one thing our profession could do better is to help humanize us, especially nowadays. You know, is connecting with communities through things that people have in common. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything, right? Whatever it is, and I think it's so easy because it's genuine, and you know, like I said, I think it really humanizes us to do that. And I think the coolest thing is now the skate camps they run. Hopefully this year we'll have them. Is they're gonna be the kids in the beginning. Some of them have gone for several years already that I met, you know, from like 2017, 18, and it went from. For the first time seeing me, the first day one of the week, parents included, being like, "Why is there an officer over here?" Because the staff were great. I mean, that's the first thing. The collaboration couldn't happen without the support of the staff. You know, who are all skaters and city employees. But besides that, the initial hesitancy of like, "What's going on here? Why are you like? What's something wrong?" You know. So it went from that mindset to like now, if I miss one, then I come back the next day or the next camp. They're like, "Hey, how come you weren't here? Like, what's going on? Like, did you have a call or something?" Like,
yes,
they're expecting me to be there now. It's great, you know. So it's almost like they forget that I'm wearing the uniform.
Yeah,
or they not forget, but they look past.
They don't pay attention. They don't pay attention.
Like, I'm just a skateboarding officer. That's it.
That's what's up. Love that. So what's next with for Craig, for Officer Hanaumi? What's the future like for you the next 5 years, next 10 years?
Same thing. I don't think anything. Well, 10 years. I don't know. I'm not planning that far out. I'll probably still be. I'll be winding up my career. Hopefully. And I mean, in the meantime, people ask sometimes about promotion and things like that. But I mean, I guess that could happen. I think a lot of my coworkers who started after me in Bellevue, they're already supervisors, you know. But the downside to me of being in a supervisory position is I wouldn't be able to do all that stuff. Like I would have to let somebody else do it, I guess. And right now we don't have another skateboarding cop, so it's only me right now. So I gotta keep doing that one until we have another person, you know. And they're out there. I get messages from people all over the country and in other parts of the
Yeah.
the world actually, who are in law enforcement that had skated before, and they see a video of mine, and then they're like, "Wow, I never thought of doing that as a way to connect." And I never thought of it either until maybe 2015, 2016. So it was just fun, right? It's like, wait a minute, this is not just fun for me; it's a way to connect, just like basketball, baseball, football, any other sport or activity. It's like it's this thing in common with another person that you never met. That, like I said, like we already talked about, Dale, you don't have to speak about it. And I don't have to ask you like, oh, isn't this a fun thing? But we're already doing it.
You're already
That's
having
great.
fun.
You're already having fun.
That's what's up. Love that. So keep up the good work. And some point you got to get off that skateboard. Just not today, right?
I know. When my body says that's enough, I'll be like, all right. I probably
Yeah.
won't listen to it, but somebody will be like, hey, come on, give somebody else a chance. When my replacement comes in, I'll be like, all right, I can be the corp now.
I appreciate you coming on, but before we get you out of here, you know how I do on this show. I play a game with my guests before we get them out of here. So let me set this up here for you. This is called a fighter's chance. Fighter's chance. Since you're into jiu-jitsu, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flash a name of a fighter, and this is just going to be the nickname. The nickname of the fighter. You tell me, is that a real fighter, or is that a fighter that's like on TV? Like a character, like Spider-Man. You know what I mean? So you'll be good. I'm sure you know the MMA, UFC fighters, right?
I'm a casual fan.
Yeah. We'll okay. So hopefully we can get you through this here. Here's your first one. Kato. What do you think? He's real or fictional?
Well, I know that one. We got Bruce Lee's grave over here. So
yes, that is fictional. Yep. Kato from the Green Hornet. All right. See, off to a good start. See, not that hard, right? Here's the next 100%. one.
Hitman. I don't know. Are we talking about all sports? I know boxing.
No, we're talking. Yeah, correct. We're talking about fighters. Thomas the Hitman Hearns. He was a boxer. See? Yeah, we're talking about fighters. These are fighters, either real or fictional fighters. All right. Here's your next one. Rampage.
Yeah. From Pride to the UFC. Rampage Jackson.
Rampage is real. Quentin Rampage Jackson, an MMA fighter. See? 3 for 3. You thought you weren't going to be able to get this. We'll stop right here. Here's your next one. Here we go. Here's your next one, brother. The Prodigy.
Yeah. See, you cannot put anything from Hawaii and me. If I don't get the Hawaii ones, then you just cancel all my credibility right now. That's BJ Penn from Wainaku, Hilo.
Oh yes, BJ Penn. All right. See, not DJ Penn, but BJ Penn. All right. All right. Here's your next one. Walker.
He's like beyond real life. It's like the legend. I'm assuming you're talking about Mr. Chuck Norris.
Yes. Cordell Walker, fictional. Walker, Texas Ranger, but yeah, he's real, fictional. He's beyond, right?
Like the.
Yeah. See, you doing it. You're doing it here. Here's your next one. Golden Boy.
Oh. I should know. It's on the tip of my tongue right now.
All you gotta say is he real or fictional?
Oh, real.
He is real. Oscar De La Hoya. He was a boxer.
Yeah. See, I'm not a boxer, but yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah, you should know. Golden Boy, right? All right, here's your next one. Black Dynamite.
Oh. Shoot, I'm gonna have to say real. I don't know, but I would say real.
Oh, your first one wrong. It's a fictional character from the movie Black Dynamite. He's played by a real fighter, Michael Jai White. I know you him, but that was a movie, Black Dynamite. Yeah, you're entitled to get one wrong, right?
Still passing.
Yeah, a couple more here for you. Mighty Mouse.
See, going for the Washington connection, the Demetrius Johnson.
Yes, correct. Demetrius, is he from up there in Washington?
Yep. I never got to meet him. One of my coworkers did at a promotion he was doing with his, I forget when he won the one championship, but yeah, he's like my size too. I think like featherweight, right? Or let's see, strawweight, bantamweight. Anyway,
Hence Mighty Mouse, right?
Right.
All right. A couple more. Here we go. Your next one is Scorpion.
Scorpion.
Real or fictional?
I'm gonna guess fictional.
That is correct. You know him from the game Mortal Kombat, right?
So, somebody should be a fighter right now and nickname themselves that and the Black Dynamite, and then they're gonna be real.
Yeah,
That's
right,
too
right.
catchy.
What's Scorpion's catchprise? You know that one?
I know.
Come here. You don't remember that one? Get over here. Remember from the game?
I watched a lot of friends play Mortal Kombat, but I was never a video game person. So.
All right. Next one, Show Enough.
That's a fiction. Last Dragon.
Yes. Played by Julius Carey in The Last Dragon. And your last one, The Spider.
Yes, Anderson Silva.
Yes, that is correct. All right, see? So you
I did
got
double bonus. I not only said it was real fiction, I said what the person was.
you even said his name. You got most of them right. You only got one wrong, so we're gonna call you All right, man. So you breezed through that, no problem at all. You got hung up on one, but could have gone either way, and you would have been 100%. But man, I appreciate you. I appreciate
Thanks
you.
for having me on, Dale. Anytime, come back, and hopefully I have some new footage for the next time you come in when I come back.
Yeah, where can people reach you on IG? What's the IG?
Just my name, Craig, Craig Hanaumi, Hanaumi, and yeah, I primarily use that. And there's a Facebook page that is the equivalent, of it, but that's my main two ones. So yeah, I appreciate it, and
Check it out.
whenever next time, hopefully I can learn some new tricks or moves or something to have shared.
Yeah, everybody check that
The
out.
Shock
That's
Knight,
good
the
stuff.
Shock Knight video is coming, you guys. The Shock Knight video. I'm not looking forward to it, but I'll sacrifice for science.
I'm looking forward to you getting shocked with it. All right, Craig, I appreciate you. Thanks, and be safe out there, man. Don't get shocked too much with that shock knife. All right.
Will do. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care, brother. Appreciate you.
All right. See ya.
All right, Square Pegs, that about does it for the very first episode of Season 2 of the Black and Blue Podcast. I want to thank my guests here today, Officer Craig Hanaumi of the Bellevue, Washington Police Department, for joining me on this action-packed episode. If you guys out there enjoyed this episode as much as I did, make sure you like and subscribe to the Black and Blue Podcast on our YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another interview. That's the new format. Every other week I drop a recorded pod, and in between I drop a live with my partner Lizzie. But until then, y'all know what to do. Stay black and blue. We'll holla at you. Peace.
This has been a Maitre D Entertainment presentation.